Welcome to October, everybody. It's the month of surprises. It's no longer Florida, 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 or even Pennsylvania, 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 as the political analyst Gomer Pyle famously said, surprise, surprise, surprise. For me, the next month is just people asking me, illogically, what the October surprise is going to be, to which I always say, if it were a surprise, I couldn't know what it is. So please stop asking me. All right, gentlemen, welcome. It's debate day. We're going to talk about the debate. We might look at a new ad. We'll look at Vice President Harris taking a position on one of Sean Spicer's favorite topics, because Sean is both a joker and a toker. And we will maybe talk about some other stuff. Anyway, today, the vice president's in Washington. No public events. Not really sure if that's related to wanting to be FEMA ready or what. She hasn't said when she's going to the south to expect the storm damage, the obsession of cable news anchors everywhere, not the obsession, as we learned on two-way last night, of many people in Georgia and North Carolina who simply want power and water, etc. Donald Trump, two events in Wisconsin today, one in Waunakee at, what time is that event? That event is at 1:30, and then in Milwaukee at 5. By the way, Doug Emhoff, coincidental bracketing, he's in Milwaukee at 5 also, exact same time. Both of them doing events there. Actually, I take it back. He's at 5 Central and Doug is at 4 Central, but nonetheless, virtually there at the same time. The two vice presidential candidates, no events scheduled until the debate. J.D. Vance, like his running mate, telegraphed he'll be going to the spin room. No idea if Walz will. I predict he won't. Joe Biden is in Washington. More FEMA stuff, getting a briefing at 11 and talking to some rabbis at 1:15. The White House briefing is at 1:30. Speaker Johnson is in New York today at the stock exchange giving a speech at 4:30 about the Republican agenda. All right, guys, my view is previewing the vice presidential debate is kind of a waste of time because it's all going to depend on what questions get asked, and we don't know what the questions are. To me, the question for these Veep debates is always, how much attacking and defending is about their own records versus the top of the ticket? So are we going to see a lot of questions about and a lot of attacks about, J.D. Walz, you attacked Trump, J.D. Vance, you attacked Trump in previous incarnations. Tim Walz, you didn't handle the riots well in the aftermath of George Floyd. I'll ask you both your guts on that. Sean, is tonight going to be more about the top of the ticket, or are the moderators and the candidates themselves going to get enmeshed in talking about their own records that no one really cares about? Which do you think will be more of the story?
So I think the questions will be about their record. The responses will be about the top of the ticket. So JD will get a question asked about some position he took, and he will immediately pivot to, Kamala Harris did this, this, and this. I think Tim Walz will equally get asked about his question, then pivot to Donald Trump. So I think you're going to get a series of questions asked about their record, maybe a follow-up, and both candidates will do their best to pivot. The interesting thing about this we saw in the presidential races is Harris, I think, did an effective job of, as I like to say, she would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, number 5, your tie is ugly, and Trump would be like, the tie's great. And I don't think that you're gonna see the same today, right? It's the tactic won't work on JD or Tim. So I think it's going to be a very different thing where they're both much more disciplined and pivoting back to the top of the ticket.
Dan.
Yeah, I think the big thing with Walz, we know he can play offense. We saw it over the summer. It's one of the reasons he was picked. The question is, how does he do playing defense, and not just with his own record, but Kamala Harris's record and the evolution of her record. He has not done a lot of interviews or press conferences. And so we know how J.D. Vance is on his feet. We've seen it. He does lots of interviews. I don't think there'll be much new for him. There will be, for everybody, curious how Walz handles the incoming.
Yep. All right. If you're new to this platform, welcome in, whether you're watching on YouTube or here on the two-way. We're delighted to have you here. This is a platform for peace, love, and understanding and learning. If somebody's saying something you disagree with, use it as an opportunity to learn how other people think, rather than to denounce the platform or to say you'll never watch again. If you'd like to be in on the conversation and you're watching here on two-way, raise your electronic hand. A couple of hands up already. We welcome always new people. If you've never spoken before, now's your opportunity to speak to a worldwide audience, ask a question, make a comment, audition to replace one of us on the show, at least implicitly. Couple new polls out today. One by AARP, 103, please. This is a Pennsylvania poll. Harris up 2. Two interesting things about this poll. Number one, well, three interesting. Number one, it was done a week ago. So the AARP insists on holding these polls. I don't know why. A fair amount has happened the last week, so take that into consideration. Number two, it's done by both a Democratic firm and a Republican firm, and the firms that do it happen to be the firms that poll for the Trump campaign and the Harris campaign, and their own private data, I can tell you, does not match this poll. Kind of weird. Number three, you can see the Senate race there, +4 for Casey. They debate for the first time, Casey and McCormick, on Thursday. That race is tightening up. Second poll from North Carolina, done by the Washington Post. Now, they obviously went into the field, around the time of the storm. Again, how much should we credit this? Trump up 2. Again, all margin of error stuff. Interesting how close that is. Guys, North Carolina voting, great New York Times story today. Not a very long story. But one of the things Karl Rove taught me about people in politics is don't worry about things you can't control. Western North Carolina, casting and counting is going to be complicated. Maybe they'll have it all sorted out. But early voting underway. I think it's underway, right? It was delayed because of Kennedy, but the ballots have been mailed out. So what's your guess, Dan? Is this something that campaigns are going to be strategizing a lot about, or is it really just up to election officials and voters to figure it out?
I mean, it's both. Absolutely. Asheville is a pretty big pocket of Democratic votes. And so, you've got to be respectful of the cleanup process. These are real people with real lives trying to, rebuild. But over the next 30 days, you will want to figure out how can we contact them? How can we try to see if they voted? You just can't turn your back and move on to other parts of the state. I think same down in Georgia. I would imagine, Sean, Trump campaign will be doing the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing, Whatley, obviously, Michael Whatley, the chair of the RNC from North Carolina, Laura Trump from North Carolina, which at least gives them a little bit more insight maybe into having some connections as far as what's going on. But I do think it's a big X factor right now. And I to your point, Mark, I don't think this is what you were saying, so I just want to make sure that everyone understands this, that they're not just going to sit back and say, here's what happens. I mean, they're going to be going to where they think that there's a vote population and saying, what are we doing to fix this? How are we having this happen? This is like a GOTV effort,
Yeah, I didn't mean they were just going to sit back and do nothing. What I meant
was, I know. That's why I just
until the election officials are going to have to figure out, like, are they going to make any special exceptions? Are they going to make any extra efforts?
But just so we're clear, I mean, this is the point, though, is that you're playing where you think your pocket is. So you're focused your efforts on making sure those people are ready to go. But your point, as they make accommodations, that's what you have to be careful of, because this is like, a game where every call, you're going, wait a second, that benefits the Asheville folks. That's not fair because So I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of intensity as far as what happens going forward, what accommodations are made, are not made, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. And I don't know what the
story about Arizona and the election officials there, what happened last time with Pennsylvania with the exceptions they made, with COVID. I mean, it's a minefield.
I don't know what's going to happen net. Asheville obviously is more liberal, but the areas around Asheville also affected are more rural, more likely to be Trump voters. We already knew that there was going to be casting and counting legal challenges and administrative changes in the battleground states, because that always happens. It's just under a bigger microscope now. But because of the disruption, I suspect somebody's eventually going to go to court and say, hey, the disruption means whatever. We need longer hours. We need more whatever.
The one upside, if there is one, politically, is that Republicans are more trained to vote on election day. And so if there is you've got 30 days for things to get back on track. And so if you're worried about early vote and vote by mail, you're probably on the Democratic side.
Yeah. All right. The strike is underway, the dock strike in the East and the Gulf. Israeli troops of some numbers incurring into Lebanon. Either of those things at this point, do you think doing damage or helping either side, or too soon to say on both? Sean?
I would say not yet. The strike has the potential to to go political. You've got Gina Raimondo, the Commerce Secretary, saying that she's not following it. Pete Buttigieg doing what he does great, which is the second a crisis hits in his area of responsibility, he's nowhere to be found. So I think that they've we talked about this yesterday in terms of where the leaders are during a crisis. This is a little bit on the sub level, but it gives political fodder to say, here's our economy coming to a screeching halt, and look where the Biden-Harris team is. It's going to take about 5-6 days for it to really have an impact. So you got to sit there. I talked to some folks, not that I'm exactly wired in with the labor community, but the word that I'm getting from the people that I know are saying these guys are dug in because they believe that this is the best chance they have to have a sympathetic administration for labor, at least a guaranteed one. So they're dug in on what they want. So I normally would say that this thing will last a day or two and the administration will get in, but my understanding is these guys really are going for the moon.
Sure, you never let
Dan,
a crisis go to waste.
So Dan, to state the cross pressure, if you're Wilmington, on the one hand, you don't want to piss labor off and intervene antithetical. On the other hand, you don't want this to go on for a long time, so the administration looks like it can't solve problems and maybe have an impact on the supply chain. So how do they deal with that cross pressure?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell. And as Sean said, the labor has all the leverage right now, because the longer this goes on, the more desperate the administration will be to solve this. And so, it's a fine line. I have no doubt behind the scenes, just as they're trying to court labor votes, they are trying to solve this as quickly as possible. And I think, Mark, your other point, the Middle East is a tinderbox for the Democratic Party. I mean, ever since the spring with the campus unrest, it's been simmering. There was worries it would erupt at the convention. That didn't materialize. But if Israel, goes in more, there are more civilian, casualties as part of that. It would not take a lot to inflame the left at a time when you need everybody unified heading into November.
Right. All right. I want to look at 2 or 3 pieces of video. We talk a lot about, and we talked to undecided voters. We see this in sharp relief. For Kamala Harris, the issue for the undecideds is policy. For Trump, it's personality. So Kamala Harris did a podcast last week that dropped yesterday, shortly after we finished. Paul, what are the name of those 2 former Golden State Warriors who host that podcast? What are those guys' names? I hope Paul's listening. Well, anyway, it's hosted by 2 former Golden State Warriors. And she got asked on this podcast about her position on one of Chuck Schumer's favorite issues, legalization of pot. Please play 101.
Oh, cannabis?
What are your views on cannabis?
I just feel strongly people should not be going to jail for smoking weed. And we know historically what that has meant and who has gone to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Second, I just think we have come to a point where we have to understand that we need to legalize it and stop criminalizing this behavior. And I've actually, this is not a new position for me. I have felt for a long time we need to legalize it. So that's where I am on that.
I love it.
All right. Basically, she reaffirms her past position that she's in favor of marijuana legalization. Hopefully we'll have it to play for you. Dan, Chuck Schumer thinks this is a good issue. It's not a change, but she's changed a lot of positions. Does it net in the battleground states is coming out and not dodging it for marijuana legalization? Net, is that a political positive for her?
Yeah, it is. When I was chief of staff to Jared Polis, who's now the governor of Colorado, I learned about this issue quite a bit. It is very popular with a lot of blue collar people in really throughout the country. If you look at ballot initiatives, most of them have passed overwhelmingly. In Colorado, you would get all these visitors from Texas, Wyoming, Kansas, everywhere that would come over the line. Where it may hurt you is in the suburbs. In those suburbs of Philadelphia and other places where parents are a little nervous about their kids having access to it, it's pulled kind of, 50-50. But net, it is a huge positive. And in central Pennsylvania, in North Carolina, in Michigan, I would rather be for it than against it.
All right, hold on, Sean. 3rd time's the charm. Before you answer, we're gonna play it. I'm guaranteed audio this time. Sean, talk over the video.
Yeah, I would just say this.
agree?
I think that Dan's analysis is right. I just don't know if it's a net win because of exactly what Dan said. I think a lot of suburban women right now are probably not excited about the legalization of pot. I mean, if you walk through a lot of areas, not just in major cities, but by parks, whatever, the smell of pot and urine has taken up a lot. I mean, I know that when you hear, I hear that as a conversation a lot, put it that way, that it's just unbelievable. I was walking outside my office and the smell of pot and all
Yeah.
this kids are
It's
doing.
everywhere here in New York City. We can't go anywhere.
My instinct is it's a net loser. But
Right.
what I do know, Donald Trump endorsed the Florida ballot measure, so it must be a net winner. But to me, it's a net
the
loser.
RFK voters if they're supportive of this. There's a reason he said that.
And that's why I'm saying I do think that there's a constituency for it. I don't think it's I think the jury's out on who it will affect the most. I will say that I just as a total side note, number one, I find it interesting that the woman who's running ads about being tough as a prosecutor, where she prosecuted people for all of this kind of stuff, is suddenly talking about how this has always been my position. Another flip-flop by Kamala Harris, another instance where her values have clearly changed and not been redefined. The last thing I will just say is I think one of the things, and I'm sneaking this in here because I just want to make sure I'm on the record on this. Dan mentioned RFK. This issue of big food. And we saw the testimony the other day about, a bag of Fruit Loops or whatever you want to put it. This is what it looks like in America. This is what it looks like in Europe. These red dyes. This is what's happening. The poisoning of food, I think, is a sleeper issue. And I want to be clear on this. I think whichever side takes this up more, I think women in particular, because of how they care for children and are largely providers, but even guys that I know, this is an issue that I don't think is popping on the national radar the way that I think it's being talked about a lot of kitchen tables and in conversations. So I just want to say my piece on that.
All right. We're going to go to questions now. Again, if you'd like to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. We give deference today to people in Georgia and South Carolina. So Blaine, who's a Trump supporter in Georgia, first tell us how you and your friends are doing, and then tell us what's on your mind, please.
We were blessed not to really get impacted that much in Northeast Georgia, where we are. A lot of it down in Augusta and things like that. So definitely, I just say pray for those people and give if you can, because whether it's Red Cross, Samaritan's Purse, whatever, they're doing great work and trying to help those people. You saw President Trump in Valdosta yesterday. The Western North Carolina, which is much closer to where I live, is just, I mean, it's a catastrophe. It's really, really bad. They need as much help as they can get. So pray for those people, give to those people. But my question to you guys is, I keep hearing some people say, voter registration is more of a reactive measure and things like that. But man, when you look in every state, every swing state that matters, Republicans are just outpacing Democrats in the push in Pennsylvania, in North Carolina and places like that. They seem to be outpacing them, especially particularly in Pennsylvania. I'm not talking about the number total. I'm talking about in catching up in the number from 2020 to 2024. And then also these preemptive court cases that Republicans seem to be winning. How big of a difference do you think those two things will make?
Yeah. Before the guys answer, Blaine, I'll say the data is not as one-sided as you think. And this is difficult. And I spent a lot of time over the weekend looking at it. There's some data in Pennsylvania that suggests Republicans are not doing as well. They're doing better than they've been in the past, but they're not catching up sufficiently. So I don't think we know yet. I don't think you can say that's clear. If you just get all your information off of X, even from credible people are cherry picking. And as I say, people are welcome to pick whatever cherries they want, but you don't necessarily have a complete picture. So don't jump to that conclusion yet. On the legal front, you're right. Republicans have had some victories. Again, this is all about casting and counting, as I say. Sean, where do things stand if you were at the RNC as you used to be? Would you be pleased with casting and counting and legal development so far? Or do you agree with me that the jury's out?
I think the jury's out, but that being said, to your point, I think you're right. It's like we used to get an F on early voting, and now I think we're getting a D+ or a C-. So it's gotten better, and that's a big deal. But I think it's like a kid that comes home with that. You have to at least acknowledge the improvement. I think we're getting better at it. That's a positive sign. The second thing, and just I think you're right. One of the things that's important is legal context. The Republicans, because of a bunch of dumb lawyers, were prohibited from election day activities since a court case based out of New Jersey from 1986, the consent decree case. It finally was resolved last cycle, and the Republicans have finally re-engaged on election day activities in a way that they haven't before. And I think that that's a positive sign with the legal challenges and whatever. They've gotten their act together, and they were prohibited by law from doing a lot of things prior to last cycle. So I think what you're seeing now is sort of the manifestation of a lot of years of decades, frankly, where they couldn't do things. So they've got their act together in a lot better way, both legally and activity wise.
Yeah, I think the one thing I would just say is just because someone's registered with the party doesn't mean they're going to vote for that party. And I think there's a lot of effort right now to make sure that you identify who your voters are and you turn them out. You're always registered. But
so to Dan's point, it's interesting. I asked the same question to Jim McLaughlin last night on my podcast. And what he said to me, at least, is that the data is showing that the folks that they are registering, particularly in Pennsylvania, when they go back and ask these folks, 1 to 10, how committed are you to vote? Because I agree with you, just because you registered to vote, those are your real low propensity voters. They are seeing in the data that those folks are expressing a high commitment. It's the 2 of 4 and the 1 of 4 that are a little less concern or are a little more concerning. But the folks that are registering right now and saying, I want to register to vote for the first time are actually showing a high propensity to actually go cast a ballot.
All right. Blaine, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Glad you and your family are doing well. And thank you for encouraging people to give to help those who were affected. All right. Kevin, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, who you're supporting, what's on your mind. First, you need to unmute. There you go.
Thanks for having me. Charlotte, North Carolina, a reluctant Trump voter right now. 2016 voted for neither major party candidate. 2020 voted for Trump. The options for me are reluctantly Trump or another protest vote in 2024. I just wanted to comment on, I don't know if the panel's opinion has changed since yesterday, but I think you talked about the hurricane response being a wash yesterday. I want to say, I think right now the Harris campaign's making a big miss right now. Like Blaine said, it's much worse in Western North Carolina than a lot of people realize. And again, Asheville's the big population center, but there's another area called like Blowing Rock. These are Democratic pockets of votes that there is a lot of frustration with, not just slowness of the response. By the way, it's a very difficult area to respond to because it's a lot of like single lane roads.
Kevin, I want to stop you for a second. You say there's frustration. Okay. Is that from your friends? Is that what you're seeing on the news? Because what I'm seeing and hearing is not frustration yet. People are grateful for the effort and recognize the task. So we want to have this conversation. Anecdotal's fine, but where are you picking up frustration?
Multiple different pockets. Being in Charlotte, a lot of people have a second home in like Blowing Rock and places like that. And these are family and extended friends talking about like their parents are still living in the rural parts of Western North Carolina. And like,
right. So your friends who have connections to the area are saying that not enough's being done. Are they blaming local officials? Are they blaming the governor? Are they blaming the federal government, or just an amorphous sense of unhappiness?
I'd say it's probably the third part, an amorphous sense of unhappiness. The success of efforts is more private. There's like helicopter launches that are pretty effective. Again, they understand it's a very difficult area to reach because of the terrain and the narrow roadways, and a great many of the roads were actually just full on washed out. So they understand it's difficult, and so this is where symbolism matters, which again I know is a lot of politics. And so what Trump did yesterday in Georgia, even though it wasn't North Carolina, like had a big effect in terms of just the psychology of, hey, there are people here, they're coming. And so the fact that I think by today's Tuesday, so Biden, I think, say our visit on Wednesday, like the Harris campaign needs to be seen as it's quote management by doing something. They need to be seen as doing something, even if it's not going to have that direct effect.
Yeah.
So,
Kevin, thank you. I'm gonna let you go only because your audio is cutting out a little bit. Bring your AirPods or something next time, just so it's easier to hear you. And I'll say my prediction is we'll see her announce a visit and do something visible today. That would be my prediction because it concerns the Kevin expressed. Kevin, thank you. Amy, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, who you're supporting, who made the necklace, and what's on your mind.
Hi, thank you. Again, loving this. Have been forever. I am today in Virginia. I'm supporting Harris. I have family in Asheville, North Carolina, and I do work with nonprofits in the immediate eastern 4 counties from Buncombe County. So right exactly what we're talking about.
How's your family doing, Amy?
They forgot to put gas in their car. I love them. I do not know what to say about that. They have water in their bathtub and they have a camping stove and they're a can opener. So, I mean, it's not great, but they're not complaining. They're not complaining. Also, they don't really know what anybody's reaction is because they don't have any seltzers. They don't have any TV. They don't have anything. They don't know what. I mean, every once in a while, one of them hikes up to this little place, then they send out a text to us, and then we share it around the America. But no, anyway, and the nonprofit people who are out there like hauling stuff around to the Head Start community, which is who I work with, that means everybody lives below poverty to begin with. They're just busy hauling stuff around. They are also not complaining. They are working, and they are not watching TV. They don't have any TV. They're just in it, and they're trying to not get washed away. And anywho, I agree. I don't think for the immediate people on the ground that we have found we are complaining yet. I think we're trying to stay alive and well.
All right, Amy, hold on one second. Guys, I want to ask you a question. If you're the Harris operation, both the West Wing operation and Wilmington, how are you deciding whether she needs to do more? They obviously decided being in Las Vegas another day after doing a Hollywood fundraiser on Sunday was a bad optic. They flew her back. They sent her to FEMA. Today, she's got no schedule. I predict she'll do something. But if you're her advisor in the White House, are you listening to two-way? Are you reading the local press? Are you talking to mayors? How are you deciding to calibrate how visible she needs to be?
So you need to be, I mean, she can do so much from the White House, right? So she could be doing phone calls, doing photo ops and in the situation room. I mean, she's got to be doing something. So there's two issues. She can't be doing the opposite. She can't be, hey, I'm going to Pennsylvania for a fundraiser or an event, but she can from the White House do video conferences and get briefings and do things that are public. So it's not just a series of behind the scenes calls. She's got to optically look like she's doing stuff and then maybe announce a visit on Wednesday. So there's things that she can do, but she's got to be doing things today and then looking forward.
Yeah, and she hasn't been reluctant to do stuff with Joe Biden. Should she just go on the Biden trip tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one option. I think, you're constantly calibrating what is being said on the ground. I mean, I think there's two things that you want. You want the local officials saying we're in constant communication and we're getting everything we need. And two, you want those images of the helicopters trying to land stuff, water, arriving, chainsaws removing trees, action, things to help people to stand them back up. And, flying in, whether she does it with Biden or does it separately, what you just don't want to be is out of sight, out of mind, or locals complaining you're not doing enough.
Yeah, to your question, Mark, if I were her, I'd hitch a ride. I mean, once the footprint is the footprint. Once you're down, the Secret Service is going to have everything taken care of. You're sort of disrupting services regardless. So you might as well take advantage of it. Do it once, get seen with the president. But she has to do this you have to get there until you can continue with your campaign, right? She's frozen right now politically until she gets there. So you might as well hitch a ride with Biden. It's already, the coordination and all that kind of stuff's already baked in. So you're not doing any further disruption. So I would hitch a ride, do that, but she's got to do that before she goes to Arizona, Pennsylvania, Georgia, wherever.
Yeah.
So
understood. All right, I warn our
Biden is so not public facing. Like he does not do much, and it puts more burden on her. Whereas you would think that they would kind of tag team this, but He just can't do
Yeah,
it.
he's been a little rough the last couple of days. I'll warn our affiliates, we're going to run a little bit over. Amy, did you have a question you wanted to ask, or just share as you shared?
I wanted to share the local perspective as I know
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. All right. Please keep in touch with us as you keep in touch with your folks in Asheville and the area. Thank you for joining. All right, guys, to close off, we're going to try something we've tried before. Doesn't always work, but I'm going to hope it works. I'm going to bring everybody with their hands up currently in, and I'm going to give everybody literally one sentence. Just tell us what's on your mind. Oops, did that wrong. What's on your mind? One sentence, not a paragraph, not a sentence with semicolons, just what you want to say. And if you don't like that, if that doesn't match your whatever, or you really wanted to ask a question, please just say, thank you for inviting me. I passed. All right, here we go. Give it a try. Did that wrong. Oh my goodness, I screwed it up. All right, we're going to do it this way. James, one sentence. What's on your mind? Got to unmute, James. Never works because I'm incompetent. James, there you go. One sentence. Go ahead.
I think the vice presidential debate may have a chance of being more consequential than normal because J.D. Vance is the only one of these four people who have spent a lot of time doing interviews, and he's really good in debates. I think it could have more impact than normal.
You're saying he could whoop Walz. He could. I agree. That could happen.
I could whoop Walz, but I'm not there.
Yeah.
JD
All right. Yep. Rob, one sentence. What's on your mind?
I'm a Harris supporter. I had a Republican canvasser stop by yesterday, and I said politely, I appreciate your work, but I hope all your candidates lose. And the person whispered to me, so do I.
Ooh, that's good stuff. Thank you.
I gave you.
That's good stuff. Walter, one sentence or a great story like just was told to us.
Well, I think the thing they got to be watching out in North Carolina is they get power up as quickly as possible. Water is right now is a big need in the western part of the state, and roads are definitely, you can't get in. I was in Sam's yesterday in Jacksonville. I ran into two people that are getting stuff to take to the western part of the state, and their concern was being able to get into the areas they want to get into. So
yep. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Josh.
Hey, I'm in Western North Carolina, and Biden's comments are not going to play well when everybody gets their internet back. It wasn't good. So I think it's going to be far worse for the Harris campaign than they think. So, yeah.
And Josh, are you a Trump voter?
I am. Yeah.
Okay. Hold on. Mark, go ahead. Thank you, Josh. Mark Ackerman, go ahead.
Two real quick points. One.
Dan, no, just one. Pick one. Mark, pick one.
Fine. Dan, kudos on the attire this morning, sir. Kudos on the attire.
All right, that's a good use of your time. Ronnie, go ahead.
Small government versus much larger government.
All right. Jeff,
That's
go
tonight.
ahead. Yes, sir. I got it. Jeff, go ahead.
Hey, Mark, Minneapolis, Trump 16, 20, and 24. Do John Kerry's comments about the First Amendment over the weekend scare anybody?
They scare Sean Spicer. That's about it, because he's the only one on here who knows about it. Thank you, sir. Chris, close us out.
Sean is secretly hoping the Democrats don't notice they're in trouble in Wisconsin.
Interesting. All right. All right, guys. Thank you for all that. Thank you for most everybody for playing by the rules. Sean, what will Kamala Harris do by the end of day?
Announce a trip.
Sit room. And now she's going on the trip and a sit room conversation.
Whether she goes on the trip or not, she will announce when she is going.
Yeah. Dan, how much pressure is there on Governor Kemp to not say such nice things about the administration from Team Trump, would you guess?
Immense. Just ask Chris Christie how that went in 2012.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everybody, for questions. Thanks for the reports from the area. Again, hope everybody's safe and hope the relief effort goes swimmingly. I'll be back with the two-way right after the debate. We're not really sure exactly when it's going to end because CBS is not being clear. Is it 90 minutes with breaks or 90 minutes plus breaks? But as soon as the debate ends, you can go on YouTube, go on the Zoom. I'll be there. We'll do a quick wrap of what's going on. Then your morning meeting team will be on with Megyn Kelly. So if you want more of what we have to say, you can tune into Megyn Kelly at about a little bit after 11 Eastern. And then tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, we'll three be back here. And then shortly after that, I'll be back again. I don't think we've set a time yet, but some point tomorrow morning. So that is, by my count, 4 opportunities to hear what I thought about the debate. That seems like more than anyone would possibly want. And 3 opportunities to hear what Sean and Dan thought about the debate. That's a lot of opportunities, 3 of which are 2 ways. So enjoy, as a certain former president would say. Thank you for watching. We'll see you shortly on 2 Way.